Hi guys, welcome back to another deep dive into the fascinating world of ancient civilizations. Tonight, we're taking a journey that might surprise you. We're exploring what could be considered the very first junk food in human history, right in the heart of ancient Egypt. When we think of ancient Egypt, our minds often drift to pyramids, pharaohs, and mysterious hieroglyphs. But what if I told you that the ancient Egyptians had their own version of comfort food, sweet treats, and even what we might call fast food? From honey-soaked pastries that would make modern donuts jealous to fermented beverages that fueled their legendary parties, the Egyptians were pioneers in creating foods purely for pleasure and convenience. We'll uncover how social classes determined who could afford these ancient luxuries, explore the fascinating trade routes that brought exotic ingredients to Egyptian kitchens, and discover archaeological evidence that shows us exactly what these ancient snacks looked like. You'll learn about their ingenious food preservation methods that kept treats fresh in the desert heat, their understanding of nutrition that was surprisingly advanced for its time, and how their culinary innovations laid the groundwork for modern processed foods. Okay, friends, before you settle in, if you enjoy this kind of deep dive content, then click the like button and don't forget to subscribe. And yes, leave a comment letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now dim the lights and turn on the fan, and let's dive into tonight's journey together. The foundation of ancient Egyptian cuisine was built upon the fertile banks of the Nile River, creating an agricultural paradise that supported one of history's most sophisticated civilizations. The annual flooding of the Nile deposited rich black soil across the river valley, creating ideal conditions for growing wheat, barley, and a variety of fruits and vegetables that would become the backbone of Egyptian cooking. Unlike many ancient civilizations that struggled with food scarcity, Egypt's geographic advantages allowed its people to develop a cuisine that went beyond mere survival, creating dishes and treats that were designed for pleasure and social enjoyment. The Egyptians cultivated emmer wheat and barley as their primary grains, but they also grew lentils, chickpeas, onions, garlic, leeks, lettuce, cucumbers, and melons, creating a diverse agricultural foundation that supported both basic nutrition and culinary experimentation. The Nile's predictable flooding cycle created a natural calendar that governed agricultural activities and influenced the development of seasonal foods and preservation techniques that would become hallmarks of Egyptian cuisine. During the inundation season, when fields were flooded and agricultural work was impossible, Egyptian farmers turned their attention to food processing activities, using this downtime to grind grains, process nuts and seeds, brew beer, and create preserved foods that would sustain them throughout the year. This seasonal rhythm encouraged the development of sophisticated food processing techniques and storage systems that allowed Egyptians to maintain varied and interesting diets even during periods when fresh ingredients were unavailable. The abundance created by Nile agriculture also enabled the development of specialized food production roles within Egyptian society, with some individuals dedicating their entire careers to perfecting specific types of food preparation. Master bakers, skilled brewers, expert honey processors, and specialized confectioners emerged as recognized craftspeople whose skills were valued and compensated accordingly. These specialists often passed their knowledge down through family lines, creating dynasties of food artisans who continuously refined and improved their techniques over generations. leading to increasingly sophisticated and delicious processed foods that satisfied the growing demands of Egyptian consumers. The geographic diversity of Egypt, stretching from the Mediterranean coast in the north to the cataracts of the Nile in the south, provided access to different ingredients and cooking traditions that enriched the overall food culture. Northern Egyptian cuisine was influenced by Mediterranean ingredients and techniques, while Southern Egyptian food incorporated elements from Nubian and African traditions, creating regional variations in processed foods and treats that reflected local preferences and available ingredients. This geographic diversity encouraged culinary innovation and experimentation as cooks from different regions shared techniques and adapted recipes to local conditions. The development of irrigation systems and agricultural technology in ancient Egypt enabled farmers to maximize crop yields and experiment with new varieties of fruits, vegetables, and grains that expanded the range of ingredients available to food processors. Advanced irrigation techniques allowed for multiple growing seasons per year in some areas, providing fresh ingredients for longer periods and enabling the development of foods that required fresh components combined with preserved elements. These technological advances in agriculture directly supported the growth of food processing industries by ensuring reliable supplies of high-quality raw materials. The concept of food beyond basic sustenance was revolutionary in the ancient world, and the Egyptians were among the first to develop what we might recognize today as processed or convenience foods. Their society was structured in a way that allowed for specialization, meaning that some individuals could dedicate their time entirely to food preparation and culinary innovation rather than basic farming or hunting. This specialization led to the development of professional bakers, brewers, and confectioners who created increasingly sophisticated foods designed to please the palate rather than simply provide nutrition. The Egyptians understood that food could be a source of pleasure, social bonding, and even spiritual connection, leading them to develop elaborate cooking techniques and flavor combinations that went far beyond the simple boiled grains and roasted meats that characterized most ancient diets. The economic system of ancient Egypt supported the development of luxury food industries through a complex network of taxation, trade, and resource allocation that channeled agricultural surpluses into specialized food processing operations. Surplus grain from good harvest years was stored in massive granaries and distributed to support non-agricultural workers, including those engaged in food processing and culinary arts. This system allowed for the development of professional food industries that could invest time and resources in creating processed foods without worrying about basic subsistence, leading to innovations in taste, texture, and presentation that wouldn't have been possible in societies where all available labor was needed for basic food production. The religious beliefs of ancient Egypt played a crucial role in shaping food processing and consumption patterns, as many foods were believed to have spiritual significance and were prepared according to specific ritual requirements that influenced processing techniques and ingredient selection. Temple complexes maintained extensive food processing operations that produced offerings for the gods, and the high standards required for religious foods drove innovations in quality control and processing techniques that benefited secular food production as well. The belief that food could carry spiritual power and influence the afterlife led to the development of special preservation techniques and elaborate food preparations that were designed to maintain their spiritual potency over extended periods. The development of writing systems and record-keeping in ancient Egypt enabled food processors to document recipes, techniques, and business practices that could be shared and refined over time. Papyrus scrolls containing detailed cooking instructions, ingredient lists, and processing techniques have been discovered by archaeologists, revealing the sophisticated knowledge base that supported Egyptian food industries. These written records allowed for the standardization of recipes and techniques across different workshops and regions, ensuring consistent quality and enabling the scaling up of production to meet growing demand for processed foods. The social structure of ancient Egypt created multiple markets for different types of processed foods, with luxury items targeted at the wealthy elite, practical convenience foods designed for busy workers, and ceremonial foods created for religious and cultural events. This market segmentation encouraged innovation and specialization as food processors developed products specifically designed to meet the needs and preferences of different consumer groups. The existence of diverse markets also provided economic stability for food processing industries, as demand from multiple sectors helped smooth out fluctuations in any single market segment. Archaeological evidence suggests that the ancient Egyptians had developed a complex understanding of flavor profiles, combining sweet, salty, and aromatic elements in ways that would be familiar to modern palates. They were masters of fermentation, using naturally occurring yeasts and bacteria to create not only bread and beer, but also preserved vegetables and fermented dairy products that could be stored for extended periods. Their knowledge of spices and seasonings was extensive, incorporating both locally grown herbs like coriander, dill, and fennel, as well as imported spices from distant lands that arrived via established trade routes. This sophisticated approach to seasoning and flavor development was particularly evident in their sweet treats and celebratory foods, which often combined multiple flavor elements in single dishes. The social structure of ancient Egypt played a crucial role in determining who had access to these early forms of junk food and convenience snacks. While the basic diet of bread, beer, onions, and garlic was available to most Egyptians regardless of social class, the more elaborate and processed foods were typically reserved for the wealthy elite, religious ceremonies, and special occasions. However, even common laborers and farmers had access to certain types of treats and processed foods, particularly during religious festivals and harvest celebrations when food restrictions were relaxed and communal feasting was encouraged. This democratization of certain luxury foods during special occasions helped to spread culinary innovations throughout Egyptian society and contributed to the development of a shared food culture that transcended class boundaries. When we examine the sweet treats and honey-based snacks that formed the backbone of ancient Egyptian junk food, we discover a sophisticated understanding of sugar chemistry and food preservation that wouldn't be matched in Europe for thousands of years. Honey was the primary sweetener in ancient Egypt, and the Egyptians became master beekeepers, developing techniques for harvesting and processing honey that maximized both quantity and quality. They understood that honey not only provided intense sweetness, but also acted as a natural preservative, allowing them to create confections that could be stored for extended periods without spoiling. This preservation quality made honey-based treats ideal for long journeys, religious offerings, and trade goods, establishing some of the world's first commercial snack foods. The art of beekeeping in ancient Egypt was highly developed, with specialized equipment and techniques that enabled beekeepers to maintain large numbers of hives and harvest honey efficiently. Egyptian beekeepers used cylindrical clay hives that could be stacked and transported, allowing them to follow flowering seasons and maximize honey production throughout the year. They developed smoking techniques to calm bees during harvest and understood the importance of timing honey collection to ensure optimal flavor and consistency. The quality of Egyptian honey was so renowned that it became a valuable export commodity, traded throughout the Mediterranean world and commanding premium prices in foreign markets. Different types of honey were recognized and valued for their unique characteristics, with some varieties prized for their delicate flavors and others valued for their robust taste or medicinal properties. Honey from different flower sources created distinct flavor profiles that were used strategically in different types of confections, with delicate acacia honey preferred for subtle sweets and stronger herb honey used in medicinal preparations. This understanding of honey varieties and their appropriate applications demonstrates sophisticated sensory evaluation skills and quality control systems that ensured consistent results in processed foods. The processing of honey into different consistencies and preparations was a specialized skill that required understanding of temperature control and timing to achieve desired results. Egyptian confectioners learned to heat honey to different temperatures to create products ranging from liquid syrups to hard, brittle candies, each with specific applications and storage characteristics. They developed techniques for clarifying honey to remove impurities and create clear, beautiful products that were visually appealing as well as delicious. The ability to manipulate honey's physical properties enabled the creation of diverse products that satisfy different consumer preferences and usage situations. Honey-based medicines and therapeutic preparations represented an important category of processed foods that combined nutritional value with healing properties. Egyptian medical practitioners developed numerous honey-based remedies that were believed to treat various ailments while providing pleasant taste and nutritional benefits. These medicinal confections often incorporated herbs, spices, and other therapeutic ingredients that were blended with honey to create palatable medicines that patients would willingly consume. The development of honey-based medicines demonstrates the integration of food processing with healthcare and the recognition that therapeutic foods needed to be appealing as well as effective. The most popular honey-based treats included what modern archaeologists have termed honey cakes, which were essentially early versions of cookies or pastries made by combining honey with ground nuts, sesame seeds, and various spices. These treats were often shaped into symbolic forms representing gods, animals, or hieroglyphic symbols, making them both delicious and spiritually significant. The Egyptians also created honey-coated fruits and nuts, developing techniques for candying dates, figs, and grapes that transformed seasonal produce into year-round treats. These candied fruits were particularly popular among the wealthy and were often included in tomb provisions for the afterlife, indicating their high value and desirability in Egyptian society. Perhaps most remarkably, the Egyptians developed early forms of what we might recognize as candy or confectionery through their manipulation of honey and various thickening agents. They learned to heat honey to different temperatures to achieve different textures, from soft, chewy consistencies similar to modern taffy to hard, brittle textures that could be broken into pieces and stored indefinitely. By adding ground sesame seeds, crushed dates, or chopped nuts to heated honey, they created composite confections that provided both sweetness and nutritional value, representing some of humanity's first attempts at creating balanced snack foods that satisfied both taste and dietary needs. The production of these honey-based treats became a specialized craft, with certain artisans dedicating their entire careers to perfecting recipes and techniques for creating the most desirable confections. These specialists often worked in temple complexes or in the households of wealthy nobles, where they had access to the finest ingredients and the time necessary to experiment with complex recipes. Their creations were not just food items, but were considered works of art, often decorated with gold leaf, precious stones, or intricate carved designs that made them suitable for religious ceremonies or diplomatic gifts. Archaeological excavations have revealed specialized tools and equipment used in the production of these honey-based treats, including bronze molds for shaping confections, ceramic vessels designed specifically for heating honey to precise temperatures, and storage containers that protected finished products from moisture and pests. These discoveries indicate that the production of sweet treats was not a casual household activity, but rather a sophisticated industry that required specialized knowledge, equipment, and ingredients. The level of organization and investment required for this industry suggests that there was significant demand for these products across Egyptian society. The cultural significance of honey-based treats extended beyond mere consumption, as these foods played important roles in religious ceremonies, social rituals, and diplomatic exchanges. Honey cakes were often offered to gods during religious ceremonies, and specific shapes and ingredients were believed to have magical properties or to convey particular blessings. During wedding ceremonies, honey treats were shared between families to symbolize the sweetness of the union, and during funeral rites, elaborate honey confections were placed in tombs to provide sustenance for the deceased in the afterlife. These ritual uses elevated honey-based treats from simple snacks to sacred foods with deep cultural and spiritual significance. The bread variations and street food culture of ancient Egypt reveal a sophisticated understanding of grain processing and food marketing that predates modern fast food concepts by thousands of years. While bread was the staple food of all Egyptians, the variety and complexity of bread types available in ancient Egypt was extraordinary, ranging from simple barley loaves that provided basic nutrition to elaborate wheat breads flavored with honey, herbs, and imported spices that functioned as luxury items and treats. The Egyptians developed numerous techniques for processing grains, including multiple types of milling, sifting, and fermentation that allowed them to create breads with different textures, flavors, and nutritional profiles. The grain processing industry in ancient Egypt was remarkably sophisticated, with multiple stages of milling and sifting that produced flours of different qualities and characteristics suitable for different types of bread production. Egyptian millers used various types of grinding stones and sifting equipment to separate grain components and create flours ranging from coarse whole grain meals to fine white flours that were prized for luxury breads. The understanding of how different milling techniques affected flour characteristics enabled bakers to select appropriate flours for specific types of breads, ensuring optimal texture and flavor in finished products. The fermentation processes used in Egyptian bread making were complex and carefully controlled, with bakers maintaining fermentation cultures that could reliably produce consistent results in different environmental conditions. Egyptian bakers understood how factors like temperature, humidity, and ingredient ratios affected fermentation outcomes, allowing them to adjust their techniques seasonally and create breads with specific characteristics. They developed multiple fermentation techniques, including wild yeast fermentation, beer-based fermentation, and controlled bacterial fermentation that produced different flavors and textures in finished breads. Specialized bread types were developed for different occasions, social classes, and dietary needs, creating a diverse market for bread products that went far beyond basic nutrition. Religious breads were prepared according to specific ritual requirements and often incorporated symbolic ingredients or shapes that had spiritual significance. Luxury breads for the wealthy featured expensive ingredients like fine spices, nuts, and honey that transformed simple bread into gourmet treats. Practical travel breads were formulated to have extended shelf life and portable characteristics that made them ideal for journeys and outdoor work. The development of bread molds and shaping techniques enabled Egyptian bakers to create visually appealing products that satisfied consumers' desires for attractive as well as delicious food. Bread was shaped into forms representing animals, gods, hieroglyphic symbols, and geometric patterns that made eating an aesthetic as well as nutritional experience. These decorative breads required considerable skill and artistic ability to create, elevating bread making from a basic craft to a form of edible art that impressed consumers and demonstrated the baker's expertise. Street food vendors in ancient Egyptian cities developed sophisticated systems for food preparation, storage, and sale that enabled them to provide fresh, hot food to busy urban consumers throughout the day. These vendors used portable cooking equipment and efficient preparation techniques that allowed them to offer a variety of bread-based snacks and meals that could be consumed on the go. The development of street food systems represented an early form of urban food service that recognized the needs of city dwellers for convenient, affordable meals that didn't require home preparation. Street vendors in ancient Egyptian cities sold a variety of bread-based snacks that could be eaten on the go, establishing some of the world's first fast food operations. These vendors offered small, portable breads stuffed with cheese, vegetables, or preserved meats, creating handheld meals that were perfect for busy workers, travelers, and market shoppers. The concept of convenience food was well understood by Egyptian bakers, who developed recipes specifically designed for portability and ease of consumption, taking into account factors like shelf life, temperature stability, and mess-free eating that modern food scientists still consider when developing new products. Archaeological evidence from ancient Egyptian bakeries reveals sophisticated production systems that could produce hundreds of loaves per day, indicating a level of commercial food production that rivals modern operations. These bakeries employed multiple workers with specialized roles, including grain processors, dough preparers, bakers, and quality control specialists who ensured that products met consistent standards. The use of standardized molds and measuring tools suggests that Egyptian bakers understood the importance of consistency in commercial food production, a principle that remains fundamental to modern food manufacturing. The variety of bread available in ancient Egypt was remarkable, with different types designed for different occasions, social classes, and dietary needs. Fine white breads made from carefully sifted wheat flour were reserved for the wealthy and for religious ceremonies, while coarser breads made from barley and mixed grains provided affordable nutrition for common workers. Flavored breads incorporated ingredients like sesame seeds, coriander, fennel, and honey to create specialty products that commanded higher prices and satisfied consumers' desires for variety and luxury. Some breads were designed specifically for long-term storage, using techniques like double baking and oil coating to extend shelf life for travelers and military expeditions. The social aspects of bread consumption in ancient Egypt were complex and culturally significant, with different types of bread serving as markers of social status, religious devotion, and cultural identity. The quality and type of bread a person consumed communicated information about their wealth, occupation, and social connections, making bread not just a food item, but a form of social currency. During religious festivals and public celebrations, high-quality breads were distributed to the common people, temporarily breaking down social barriers and creating shared experiences of luxury and abundance that reinforced community bonds and cultural unity. Egyptian bakers also developed early forms of what we might recognize as pastries or dessert breads, incorporating fruits, nuts, and honey into bread doughs to create sweet treats that served as both food and entertainment. These sweet breads were often shaped into elaborate forms representing animals, gods, or geometric patterns, making them visually appealing as well as delicious. The techniques used to create these decorative breads required considerable skill and artistic ability, elevating baking from a simple craft to a form of edible art that impressed consumers and demonstrated the baker's expertise and creativity. The fermented beverages and party culture of ancient Egypt played a central role in the development of what we might consider recreational or social consumption, establishing patterns of food and drink enjoyment that persist in modern societies. Beer was the primary alcoholic beverage in ancient Egypt, consumed daily by people of all ages and social classes as both a nutritional supplement and a source of pleasure. Egyptian beer was quite different from modern varieties, being thicker, more nutritious, and often flavored with dates, honey, or herbs to create complex flavor profiles that satisfied both taste and dietary needs. The brewing industry in ancient Egypt was one of the most advanced food processing operations of the ancient world, with sophisticated equipment, standardized procedures, and quality control systems that ensured consistent production of high-quality beverages. Egyptian breweries operated on both household and commercial scales, with some facilities capable of producing hundreds of gallons of beer per day to supply urban markets and institutional customers. The brewing process involved multiple stages of grain processing, fermentation, and finishing that required skilled workers and careful attention to timing and environmental conditions. Different types of beer were produced for different occasions and consumer preferences, ranging from light, refreshing beers suitable for daily consumption to strong, highly flavored beers reserved for festivals and special occasions. Egyptian brewers developed techniques for controlling alcohol content, flavor intensity, and shelf life that enabled them to create products targeted at specific markets and consumption situations. Some beers were formulated specifically for storage and transport, while others were designed for immediate consumption and maximum freshness. The role of beer in Egyptian social life extended far beyond simple refreshment, as beer consumption was integrated into religious ceremonies, business negotiations, and social gatherings in ways that reinforced community bonds and cultural traditions. Beer was offered to gods during religious ceremonies, shared between parties during business transactions, and consumed communally during festivals and celebrations. The social aspects of beer consumption created markets for specialized brewing equipment, serving vessels, and related products that supported entire industries dedicated to facilitating social drinking. Wine production in ancient Egypt represented the pinnacle of luxury beverage processing, with sophisticated techniques that produced high-quality wines that were traded throughout the ancient world. Egyptian winemakers developed methods for grape cultivation, harvesting, fermentation, and aging that maximized both quality and quantity of wine production. They understood the importance of grape variety selection, optimal harvest timing, and controlled fermentation in creating wines with specific characteristics and aging potential. The wine industry in ancient Egypt was closely associated with wealth and power, as vineyard ownership and wine production required significant capital investment and access to suitable land and climate conditions. Wine estates operated by wealthy nobles and religious institutions produced wines that were used for diplomatic gifts, religious ceremonies, and elite entertainment, creating a luxury market that supported premium pricing and continuous innovation in production techniques. The association between wine and high social status made wine consumption an important marker of wealth and cultural sophistication. Specialized beverages for medical and ceremonial purposes represented another important category of fermented drinks that combined recreational and therapeutic functions. Egyptian beverage processors created medicinal drinks that incorporated herbs, spices, and other therapeutic ingredients into alcoholic bases that made the medicines more palatable and potentially more effective. These medicinal beverages often served dual purposes as both treatments and social drinks, allowing consumers to address health concerns while participating in social activities. The equipment and technology used in Egyptian beverage production was remarkably sophisticated, with specialized vessels for fermentation, filtration, and storage that enabled precise control over production processes. Archaeological discoveries of brewing and winemaking equipment reveal advanced understanding of the chemistry and microbiology of fermentation, with tools designed to optimize conditions for specific types of fermentation and minimize contamination that could spoil products. The investment in specialized equipment indicates that beverage production was a profitable industry that justified significant capital expenditure in improved technology. The production of beer in ancient Egypt was a sophisticated process that required considerable knowledge of fermentation science and quality control. Egyptian brewers developed techniques for controlling fermentation temperature, timing, and ingredient ratios that produced consistent results and allowed for the creation of different beer styles suited to various occasions and preferences. Archaeological evidence suggests that some breweries produced specialized beers for religious ceremonies, festivals, and elite consumption, indicating that even this basic beverage was subject to luxury treatment and premium pricing for discerning consumers. Wine production in ancient Egypt was more limited due to climatic conditions, but it represented the pinnacle of luxury beverages and was highly prized by the wealthy and powerful. Egyptian winemakers imported grape varieties from other regions and developed sophisticated techniques for grape processing, fermentation, and aging that produced wines of exceptional quality. These wines were often flavored with honey, spices, or herbs to create unique flavor profiles that couldn't be found elsewhere, making Egyptian wines valuable trade commodities and diplomatic gifts that enhanced Egypt's international reputation. The social consumption of alcoholic beverages in ancient Egypt was highly organized and culturally significant, with elaborate drinking parties and banquets serving as important venues for business negotiations, political discussions, and social networking. These gatherings featured not only premium beverages, but also elaborate food presentations, entertainment, and ceremony that created memorable experiences for participants. The concept of hospitality through food and drink was central to Egyptian culture, with hosts competing to provide the most impressive spreads of exotic foods and rare beverages to demonstrate their wealth, generosity, and cultural sophistication. Archaeological discoveries of drinking vessels, serving equipment, and party supplies from ancient Egypt reveal the importance placed on the presentation and consumption of beverages in social settings. Elaborate cups, bowls, and serving vessels made from precious metals, decorated ceramics, and rare materials were used to enhance the drinking experience and communicate the importance of the occasion. The development of specialized equipment for serving and consuming beverages indicates that Egyptians understood the psychological and social impact of presentation on enjoyment and satisfaction, principles that remain important in modern hospitality and entertainment industries. The nuts, seeds, and portable snacks that formed an important part of ancient Egyptian cuisine demonstrate sophisticated understanding of nutrition, preservation, and convenience that rivals modern snack food development. The Egyptians had access to a wide variety of nuts and seeds, including almonds, pistachios, pine nuts, sesame seeds, and flax seeds, which they processed using various techniques to enhance flavor, digestibility, and shelf life. These protein and fat-rich foods were particularly valuable for travelers, laborers, and military personnel who needed concentrated nutrition in portable forms. The cultivation and harvesting of nuts and seeds in ancient Egypt involved sophisticated agricultural techniques that maximized yield and quality while ensuring reliable supplies for processing industries. Egyptian farmers developed methods for growing nut trees and seed crops that took advantage of local climate and soil conditions, creating agricultural systems that could support both subsistence needs and commercial production. The timing of harvest was crucial for achieving optimal flavor and nutritional content, requiring detailed knowledge of plant biology and environmental factors that affected crop maturity. Processing techniques for nuts and seeds were highly developed, with specialized equipment and methods designed to optimize extraction of oils, flavors, and nutrients while maintaining product quality and safety. Egyptian processors used various heating, grinding, and pressing techniques to create different types of nut and seed products, from simple roasted snacks to complex pastes and oils that served multiple culinary and cosmetic purposes. The ability to process nuts and seeds into diverse products enabled the development of varied and interesting snack foods that satisfied different consumer preferences. The nutritional understanding that guided Egyptian nut and seed processing was remarkably advanced, with processors recognizing the health benefits of different nuts and seeds and developing preparation methods that enhanced their nutritional value. They understood that nuts and seeds provided essential fats, proteins, and minerals that were important for health and energy, leading them to create snack foods that combined multiple ingredients to provide balanced nutrition. This nutritional sophistication enabled the development of functional foods that served both dietary and medicinal purposes. Storage and preservation of processed nuts and seeds required advanced understanding of food science and environmental control to prevent spoilage and maintain quality over extended periods. Egyptian processors developed techniques for controlling moisture, preventing pest infestation, and maintaining freshness that enabled them to create shelf-stable products suitable for trade and long-term consumption. The development of effective storage methods was crucial for creating commercial nut and seed products that could be distributed across Egypt's extensive territory and exported to foreign markets. Flavoring and seasoning techniques applied to nuts and seeds created diverse products that appealed to different tastes and occasions, from simple salted nuts suitable for everyday snacking to elaborate spiced and honey-coated varieties reserved for special occasions. Egyptian processors understood how different seasonings interacted with nuts and seeds to create appealing flavor combinations, and they developed techniques for applying seasonings that ensured even distribution and optimal flavor development. These flavoring techniques represented some of the earliest examples of value-added food processing that transformed basic agricultural products into premium consumer goods. The integration of nuts and seeds into composite snack foods demonstrated sophisticated understanding of texture, flavor, and nutritional balancing that created products superior to simple individual ingredients. Egyptian food processors developed techniques for combining multiple nuts and seeds with honey, fruits, and spices to create energy bars, trail mixes, and confections that provided complete nutrition in convenient, portable forms. These composite products represented early examples of engineered foods designed to meet specific nutritional and convenience requirements. Egyptian food processors developed numerous techniques for preparing nuts and seeds, including roasting, grinding, pressing, and combining with other ingredients to create composite snack foods that provided balanced nutrition and satisfying flavors. Roasted and salted nuts were popular treats that could be stored for extended periods and transported easily, making them ideal for trade and travel. Ground nuts and seeds were often combined with honey or dates to create energy-dense bars and cakes that provided sustained nutrition for physically demanding activities. The processing of sesame seeds into tahini and other paste products represents one of ancient Egypt's most significant contributions to food technology, as these techniques allowed for the creation of shelf-stable, protein-rich foods that could be stored and transported over long distances. Egyptian sesame processors developed methods for hulling, grinding, and pressing sesame seeds that extracted maximum nutrition and flavor, while creating products with excellent storage characteristics. These sesame-based foods became important trade commodities and were valued throughout the ancient Mediterranean world. Oil extraction from nuts and seeds was another area where Egyptian food processors excelled, developing techniques for mechanical pressing and heat extraction that produced high-quality oils for both culinary and cosmetic uses. These oils were used not only for cooking and food preparation, but also for preserving other foods, creating an integrated system of food processing that maximized the value and utility of available ingredients. The development of oil extraction technology also allowed for the creation of oil-preserved foods that could be stored for months or years without spoiling. Archaeological evidence of nut and seed processing equipment, including grinding stones, pressing devices, and storage containers, reveals the sophistication and scale of these operations in ancient Egypt. Specialized tools designed specifically for processing different types of nuts and seeds indicate that Egyptian food processors understood the unique requirements and optimal techniques for each ingredient, allowing them to maximize both quality and yield. The investment in specialized equipment suggests that nut and seed processing was a profitable industry that served significant demand across Egyptian society. The festival foods and special occasion treats of ancient Egypt reveal the central role that elaborate cuisine played in religious observance, social celebration, and cultural expression. During major festivals like the Opet Festival, the Beautiful Festival of the Valley, and harvest celebrations, ordinary dietary restrictions were relaxed, and special foods were prepared that showcased the finest ingredients and most advanced cooking techniques available to Egyptian chefs. These festival foods were often more elaborate, expensive, and time-consuming to prepare than everyday meals, representing the community's investment in creating memorable shared experiences that reinforced cultural values and social bonds. The planning and preparation for festival foods began weeks or even months in advance, with temple complexes, wealthy households, and community organizations coordinating massive food production efforts that required careful resource management and skilled labor coordination. Specialized workers were employed specifically for festival food preparation, including master bakers who created elaborate ceremonial breads, confectioners who produced intricate honey sculptures, and brewers who crafted special occasion beverages with unique flavors and presentations. The scale and complexity of festival food preparation demonstrates the central importance of food in Egyptian cultural and religious life. Religious symbolism played a crucial role in festival food design and preparation, with specific ingredients, shapes, colors, and preparation methods chosen to honor particular gods or commemorate important mythological events. Foods prepared for festivals honoring Osiris incorporated grains and ingredients associated with death and rebirth, while festivals celebrating Hathor featured foods made with milk, honey, and other ingredients associated with femininity and abundance. The symbolic content of festival foods created connections between physical nourishment and spiritual experience that enhanced the religious significance of celebrations while providing memorable sensory experiences for participants. The distribution and consumption of festival foods was carefully orchestrated to reinforce social hierarchies while also providing opportunities for community participation and shared enjoyment. Different types of foods were allocated to different social groups, with the finest and most expensive items reserved for priests, nobles, and honored guests, while specially prepared but less elaborate foods were distributed to common participants. However, even the foods provided to common people during festivals were significantly superior to their everyday fare, creating experiences of abundance and luxury that reinforced the value and importance of religious and cultural celebrations. Competitive food preparation became an important aspect of festival celebrations, with different households, neighborhoods, and professional groups competing to create the most impressive and innovative foods for public display and consumption. These competitions encouraged culinary innovation and creativity while also providing entertainment and social engagement for festival participants. The competitive aspect of festival food preparation helped drive continuous improvement in cooking techniques and recipe development, contributing to the overall advancement of Egyptian cuisine. Seasonal festivals provided opportunities to showcase ingredients that were available only at specific times of year, creating anticipation and excitement around foods that couldn't be enjoyed year-round. Fresh fruit festivals celebrated the ripening of grapes, figs, and dates, with elaborate displays of fresh and processed fruit products that highlighted the abundance and variety of Egyptian agriculture. Grain harvest festivals featured competitions for the finest breads and beers made from newly harvested crops, celebrating both agricultural success and culinary skill. These seasonal celebrations created cultural rhythms that connected Egyptian society to natural cycles and reinforced the importance of agricultural abundance in maintaining social stability and prosperity. The preservation and documentation of festival foods and their preparation methods was considered important enough to be recorded in temple inscriptions, tomb paintings, and papyrus scrolls that have provided modern researchers with detailed information about ancient Egyptian culinary practices. These records reveal not only the ingredients and techniques used in festival food preparation, but also the cultural meanings and social functions of different foods in Egyptian society. The fact that festival foods were considered worthy of permanent documentation indicates their central importance in Egyptian culture and their role in defining cultural identity and values. International elements in festival foods reflected Egypt's extensive trade networks and cultural connections, with exotic ingredients and foreign cooking techniques incorporated into traditional celebrations to create unique fusion cuisines that demonstrated Egypt's cosmopolitan sophistication. Spices from India, wines from the Levant, and cooking techniques from Nubia were integrated into Egyptian festival foods, creating innovative combinations that satisfied local tastes while showcasing international influences. This cultural integration through food helped establish Egypt's reputation as a center of civilization and cultural refinement that attracted visitors and traders from across the ancient world. Religious festivals provided opportunities for Egyptian cooks to create foods that were not only delicious but also symbolically meaningful, with specific ingredients, shapes, and preparation methods chosen to honor particular gods or commemorate important mythological events. For example, during festivals honoring Osiris, foods were prepared using grains and ingredients associated with death and rebirth, while festivals celebrating Hathor featured foods made with milk, honey, and other ingredients associated with femininity and abundance. These symbolic foods created connections between physical nourishment and spiritual experience that enhanced the religious significance of festival celebrations. The scale of food preparation for major festivals was enormous, with temple complexes and wealthy households investing significant resources in creating elaborate banquets that could feed hundreds or thousands of participants. Archaeological evidence of festival food preparation areas reveals sophisticated logistics and planning systems that ensured adequate supplies of ingredients, cooking fuel, serving vessels, and storage facilities for these massive undertakings. The organization required for festival food preparation demonstrates advanced project management skills and social coordination that rivals modern event catering operations. Seasonal festivals also provided opportunities to showcase ingredients that were available only at specific times of year, creating anticipation and excitement around foods that couldn't be enjoyed year-round. Fresh fruit festivals celebrated the ripening of grapes, figs, and dates, while grain harvest festivals featured fresh bread and beer made from newly harvested crops. These seasonal celebrations created cultural rhythms that connected Egyptian society to natural cycles and reinforced the importance of agricultural abundance in maintaining social stability and prosperity. The social aspects of festival food consumption were carefully orchestrated to reinforce hierarchies while also providing opportunities for temporary equality and shared experience. During some festivals, social distinctions were temporarily suspended, and people of all classes shared the same foods and participated in the same activities, creating powerful experiences of community unity. However, other festivals maintained strict social protocols that demonstrated and reinforced status differences through differential access to premium foods and special dining arrangements. The trade routes and foreign influences that shaped ancient Egyptian snacking culture reveal a sophisticated international network that brought exotic ingredients, new cooking techniques, and diverse flavor profiles to Egyptian cuisine. Egypt's strategic location at the crossroads of Africa, Asia, and the Mediterranean made it a natural hub for trade in luxury foods and spices, allowing Egyptian consumers access to ingredients from across the known world. Trade relationships with Nubia, the Levant, Mesopotamia, and Mediterranean civilizations brought new foods and cooking methods that were adapted and integrated into existing Egyptian culinary traditions. Imported spices like cinnamon, cardamom, and black pepper transformed Egyptian cooking by introducing new flavor profiles and preservation techniques that enhanced both taste and shelf life of processed foods. These expensive spices were initially available only to the wealthy elite, but over time they became more widely available and were incorporated into common foods and everyday cooking. The integration of foreign spices into Egyptian cuisine demonstrates the dynamic and adaptive nature of ancient food cultures, which readily incorporated beneficial innovations from other societies. Archaeological evidence of trade goods and cooking equipment from foreign cultures found in Egyptian sites reveals the extent to which international exchange influenced local food practices. Cooking vessels designed for specific techniques, storage containers optimized for particular ingredients, and serving equipment suited to foreign dining customs were adopted and adapted by Egyptian cooks to create hybrid cooking styles that combined the best elements of multiple traditions. This cultural exchange enriched Egyptian cuisine and contributed to its reputation for sophistication and variety. The export of Egyptian specialty foods to other cultures also demonstrates the high regard in which Egyptian cuisine was held throughout the ancient world. Egyptian honey, specialized breads, preserved fruits, and other processed foods were traded across the Mediterranean and beyond, establishing Egypt's reputation as a center of culinary innovation and quality. These export industries provided economic benefits to Egypt while also spreading Egyptian cooking techniques and food preferences to other cultures, creating a lasting influence on Mediterranean and Middle Eastern cuisine. Foreign merchants and diplomats residing in Egypt brought their own food traditions and cooking techniques, creating multicultural neighborhoods and markets where diverse culinary styles coexisted and influenced each other. These cosmopolitan food environments fostered innovation and experimentation as cooks from different traditions shared techniques and adapted recipes to available ingredients. The resulting fusion cuisines combined elements from multiple cultures to create new foods that were uniquely Egyptian while also reflecting international influences. The relationship between social classes and food access in ancient Egypt created a complex hierarchy of consumption that determined who could afford various types of processed foods and luxury snacks. At the top of the social pyramid, pharaohs and high-ranking nobles had access to the most exotic and expensive foods available, including imported delicacies, rare spices, and elaborate preparations that required significant time and resources to create. These luxury foods served not only as sources of nutrition and pleasure, but also as symbols of power, wealth, and cultural sophistication that reinforced social distinctions and political authority. The priestly class occupied a special position in Egyptian food culture, as their religious duties gave them access to high-quality foods used in temple offerings and ceremonies. Temple complexes maintained their own farms, bakeries, and food processing facilities that produced foods to exacting standards for religious purposes. While these foods were technically intended for the gods, practical necessity meant that priests consumed significant quantities of premium foods as part of their religious duties, making the priesthood one of the best-fed groups in Egyptian society. Skilled artisans, scribes, and mid-level administrators represented a growing middle class in ancient Egypt that had access to processed foods and luxury items that were beyond the reach of common laborers, but far more affordable than the exotic delicacies enjoyed by the elite. This middle class drove demand for moderately priced processed foods, specialty breads, and local luxury items that provided variety and pleasure without requiring enormous wealth. The existence of this middle-class market encouraged the development of food processing industries that could produce quality products at reasonable prices. Common laborers, farmers, and servants comprised the majority of Egyptian society and had access primarily to basic foods, supplemented occasionally by treats and processed items during festivals, celebrations, and special occasions. However, even this basic diet was more varied and nutritious than what was available to common people in most other ancient civilizations, reflecting Egypt's agricultural abundance and relatively advanced food distribution systems. The occasional access to luxury foods during festivals and celebrations provided important psychological and social benefits that helped maintain social stability and cultural cohesion. Archaeological evidence of food remains from different types of residential sites reveals the stark differences in diet quality and variety between social classes, while also showing that even humble households had access to some processed foods and treats. Excavations of workers' villages reveal evidence of bread varieties, beer consumption, and occasional access to nuts, dried fruits, and other processed foods that provided variety and pleasure beyond basic subsistence. These findings suggest that while social inequality in food access was significant, it was not absolute, and even common people could enjoy some of the benefits of Egyptian culinary innovation. The cooking methods and food preparation techniques developed by ancient Egyptian cooks demonstrate sophisticated understanding of chemistry, physics, and biology that enabled them to create complex processed foods using relatively simple equipment and ingredients. Egyptian cooks mastered numerous techniques for applying and controlling heat, including baking, roasting, boiling, steaming, and frying, each of which produced different textures, flavors, and nutritional characteristics in finished foods. The ability to precisely control cooking temperatures and timing was crucial for creating consistent results in processed foods and treats that needed to meet consumer expectations for quality and taste. Fermentation was perhaps the most sophisticated cooking technique mastered by Egyptian food processors, as it required understanding of microbiology and environmental control that wouldn't be scientifically explained until modern times. Egyptian bakers and brewers developed techniques for capturing, cultivating, and maintaining fermentation cultures that could reliably produce consistent results in bread and beer production. They understood how factors like temperature, humidity, ingredient ratios, and timing affected fermentation outcomes, allowing them to create products with specific characteristics designed to meet different needs and preferences. Food preservation techniques developed by Egyptian cooks enabled the creation of processed foods that could be stored for extended periods without spoiling, making them suitable for trade, travel, and long-term consumption. Drying, salting, smoking, and oil preservation were all mastered by Egyptian food processors who understood how these techniques worked and how to optimize them for different types of ingredients. The development of effective preservation techniques was crucial for creating commercial food products that could be distributed across Egypt's extensive territory and exported to foreign markets. The use of natural additives and flavor enhancers in Egyptian cooking demonstrates sophisticated understanding of food chemistry and sensory science that enhanced both taste and nutritional value of processed foods. Egyptian cooks learned to use salt not only for preservation, but also for enhancing flavor and controlling fermentation, while natural acids from fruits and vinegar were used to balance flavors and improve food safety. The strategic use of fats and oils improved texture, flavor, and nutritional value, while also serving preservation functions that extended shelf life.
Archaeological discoveries of cooking equipment and food processing tools reveal the sophistication and specialization of Egyptian food preparation technology.
Specialized ovens designed for specific types of baking, grinding equipment optimized for different grains and seeds, and storage vessels engineered for particular preservation needs demonstrate that Egyptian food processors understood the importance of using appropriate tools for each task. The investment in specialized equipment indicates that food processing was a profitable industry that justified significant capital investment in improved technology and production efficiency. The food storage and preservation techniques developed by ancient Egyptian food processors were revolutionary for their time and enabled the creation of processed foods that could be stored, transported, and consumed long after production. Understanding the challenges posed by Egypt's hot, dry climate, food processors developed numerous techniques for protecting foods from heat, moisture, pests, and spoilage organisms that could destroy stored products. These preservation techniques were essential for creating commercial food industries that could serve widespread markets and provide consistent supplies of processed foods throughout the year. Drying was perhaps the most important preservation techniques mastered by Egyptian food processors, as it removed moisture that supported bacterial growth while concentrating flavors and nutrients in smaller, more portable packages. Egyptians developed sophisticated drying techniques for fruits, vegetables, meats, and fish that produced shelf-stable products with excellent nutritional value and palatability. The controlled drying of fruits like dates, figs, and grapes created concentrated sweet treats that functioned as both candy and preserved nutrition, while dried meats and fish provided protein sources that could be stored indefinitely without refrigeration. Salt preservation was another crucial technique that enabled Egyptians to create preserved foods that could be stored for months or years without spoiling. Egyptian salt producers developed methods for extracting and refining salt from both seawater and inland salt deposits, creating pure salt products that were effective for food preservation. Salted fish, preserved vegetables, and cured meats became important components of Egyptian cuisine and valuable trade commodities that could be exported to regions where fresh foods were less available. Oil and fat preservation techniques allowed Egyptian food processors to create preserved foods with excellent flavor and texture characteristics that remained appealing to consumers even after extended storage periods. By submerging foods in oil or coating them with fat, processors created anaerobic environments that prevented spoilage while maintaining moisture and flavor. These oil-preserved foods often developed complex, rich flavors during storage that were highly prized by consumers and commanded premium prices in markets. The development of specialized storage containers and facilities for preserved foods demonstrates the sophistication and scale of Egyptian food preservation industries. Archaeological excavations have revealed elaborate storage facilities with carefully controlled environmental conditions, specialized ceramic vessels designed for specific types of preserved foods, and systematic organization that enabled efficient inventory management and quality control. These discoveries indicate that food preservation was not a casual household activity, but rather a sophisticated industry that required significant investment in facilities, equipment, and expertise. The medical understanding of food and health in ancient Egypt was remarkably advanced for its time, influencing the development of processed foods and dietary practices that promoted wellness and prevented disease. Egyptian physicians understood that diet played a crucial role in maintaining health and treating illness, leading them to develop specific dietary recommendations for different conditions and circumstances. This medical knowledge influenced food processing techniques and ingredient selection in ways that enhanced the nutritional value and therapeutic properties of processed foods and treats. Ancient Egyptian medical texts describe numerous foods and food preparations that were believed to have specific health benefits, including honey for wound healing and digestive health, garlic for cardiovascular function, and various herbs and spices for treating different ailments. This understanding of food as medicine influenced the development of processed foods that combined ingredients specifically chosen for their health-promoting properties, creating some of the world's first functional foods designed to provide both nutrition and therapeutic benefits. The Egyptian understanding of dietary balance and moderation was sophisticated and influenced recommendations for consuming processed foods and treats in ways that supported rather than undermined health. Egyptian physicians recognized that while sweet treats and processed foods could provide pleasure and social benefits, excessive consumption could lead to health problems. This understanding led to cultural practices that limited consumption of luxury foods to special occasions and social settings where moderation was naturally enforced by cultural norms. Archaeological evidence of medical tools and pharmaceutical preparations reveals that Egyptian physicians had detailed knowledge of how different foods affected human physiology and how to use foods therapeutically to treat various conditions. Medicinal food preparations that combined multiple ingredients for specific therapeutic purposes demonstrate sophisticated understanding of pharmacology and nutrition that informed both medical practice and food processing techniques. These medicinal foods often served as bridges between medicine and cuisine, providing therapeutic benefits while also satisfying taste preferences. The Egyptian emphasis on cleanliness and food safety in both medical practice and food preparation contributed to the development of processing techniques that minimized contamination and spoilage while maximizing nutritional value and safety. Egyptian food processors understood the importance of clean water, sanitary working conditions, and proper ingredient handling in creating safe foods that wouldn't cause illness. This attention to food safety was particularly important for processed foods that were stored for extended periods or transported over long distances where contamination could have serious consequences. The archaeological evidence and modern discoveries that illuminate ancient Egyptian food culture provide fascinating insights into the sophistication and variety of processed foods and treats available to ancient consumers.
Excavations of ancient Egyptian sites have revealed remarkably well-preserved food remains, cooking equipment, food processing facilities, and storage areas that provide detailed information about how foods were produced, processed, and consumed.
These discoveries have revolutionized our understanding of ancient Egyptian cuisine and revealed the extent to which processed foods and luxury items were integrated into daily life. Preserved food remains found in tombs and storage areas have provided direct evidence of the types of processed foods that were considered valuable enough to include in burial provisions or to store for extended periods. Honey cakes, preserved fruits, nuts, seeds, and various bread types found in archaeological contexts demonstrate the variety and quality of processed foods available to ancient Egyptians. Chemical analysis of these preserved foods, nuts, seeds, and various bread types found in archaeological contexts demonstrate the variety and quality of processed foods available to ancient Egyptians. Archaeological discoveries of food processing equipment and facilities have revealed the scale and sophistication of ancient Egyptian food industries, showing that food processing was conducted on both household and commercial scales using specialized tools and techniques. Chemical analysis of these preserved foods has revealed information about ingredients, processing techniques, and nutritional content that helps modern researchers understand ancient food technology and dietary practices. Archaeological discoveries of food processing equipment and facilities have revealed the scale and sophistication of ancient Egyptian food industries, showing that food processing was conducted on both household and commercial scales, using specialized tools and techniques. Excavations of ancient bakeries, breweries, and food processing workshops have uncovered evidence of mass production techniques, quality control systems, and specialized equipment that enabled consistent production of high-quality processed foods. These discoveries demonstrate that ancient Egyptian food processing was far more advanced and organized than previously believed. Modern scientific analysis of ancient Egyptian food remains using techniques like gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and DNA analysis has provided detailed information about ingredients, processing methods, and consumption patterns that couldn't be determined through traditional archaeological methods. These advanced analytical techniques have revealed information about spice use, fermentation processes, preservation methods, and ingredient sourcing that helps modern researchers understand the complexity and sophistication of ancient Egyptian cuisine. Recent discoveries at sites like Deir el Medina, the workers' village that housed the craftsmen who built royal tombs, have provided particularly valuable insights into the food culture of ordinary Egyptians and revealed that even common workers had access to a surprising variety of processed foods and treats. Excavations of houses, workshops, and community areas in this village have revealed evidence of sophisticated food processing, varied diet, and regular consumption of luxury items that challenge assumptions about social inequality in ancient Egypt. The comparisons between ancient Egyptian processed foods and modern junk food reveal striking similarities in consumer preferences, processing techniques, and social functions that suggest fundamental continuities in human food behavior across thousands of years. Like modern junk food, ancient Egyptian treats and processed foods were designed to provide immediate pleasure and satisfaction through concentrated flavors, appealing textures, and convenient consumption formats that made them attractive to busy consumers seeking quick gratification. The use of sweeteners, fats, and flavor enhancers in ancient Egyptian processed foods parallels modern food processing strategies that maximize palatability and consumer appeal. The social functions of ancient Egyptian processed foods closely mirror those of modern junk food, serving as markers of social status, sources of comfort and pleasure, and facilitators of social bonding and shared experiences. Just as modern consumers use junk food to celebrate special occasions, cope with stress, and demonstrate hospitality, ancient Egyptians used processed foods and treats in similar ways that transcended basic nutrition to provide psychological and social benefits. The role of processed foods in ancient Egyptian festivals and celebrations parallels the use of special foods in modern holidays and social gatherings. The marketing and distribution strategies used for ancient Egyptian processed foods share similarities with modern junk food marketing, including the use of appealing presentation, convenient packaging, and strategic placement in high-traffic areas where impulse purchases were likely. Ancient Egyptian food vendors understood the importance of visual appeal, product consistency, and consumer convenience in driving sales, principles that remain fundamental to modern food marketing. The development of brand recognition and consumer loyalty for specific food processors and their products also parallels modern marketing strategies. However, important differences exist between ancient Egyptian processed foods and modern junk food, particularly in terms of nutritional content and ingredient quality. While both types of foods prioritize taste and convenience over optimal nutrition, ancient Egyptian processed foods typically contained higher quality ingredients with greater nutritional value than many modern processed foods. The use of whole grains, nuts, seeds, fruits, and honey in ancient Egyptian treats provided significant nutritional benefits that are often missing from modern junk foods made with refined ingredients and artificial additives. The environmental and social context of food consumption also differed significantly between ancient Egypt and modern times, with ancient Egyptian processed foods typically consumed as part of more active lifestyles and more socially integrated eating patterns. While ancient Egyptians certainly enjoyed treats and processed foods for pleasure, these foods were generally consumed in moderation as part of balanced diets that included plenty of fresh vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, and within social contexts that naturally regulated consumption through cultural norms and practical limitations. The legacy and cultural impact of ancient Egyptian food innovations extends far beyond their historical period, influencing food cultures throughout the Mediterranean world and establishing foundational techniques and concepts that continue to shape modern food production and consumption. Many of the food processing techniques developed by ancient Egyptian cooks, including fermentation, preservation, and flavor enhancement methods, were adopted by other ancient civilizations and evolved into the food technologies that underpin modern food industries. The Egyptian emphasis on food as both nutrition and pleasure helped establish cultural attitudes toward eating that prioritize sensory satisfaction alongside basic sustenance, contributing to the development of sophisticated culinary traditions throughout the ancient world. The trade networks established by ancient Egypt to acquire exotic ingredients and distribute processed foods created economic and cultural connections that facilitated the spread of food technologies and culinary ideas across vast geographical distances. Egyptian food exports introduced Mediterranean and Middle Eastern populations to new flavors, processing techniques, and food concepts that were incorporated into local traditions and adapted to regional preferences. This cultural exchange created lasting influences on regional cuisines that can still be detected in modern Middle Eastern, Mediterranean, and North African food traditions that share common elements derived from ancient Egyptian innovations. The social and ceremonial uses of processed foods in ancient Egypt established patterns of food consumption that continue to influence how modern societies use special foods to mark important occasions, demonstrate hospitality, and create shared cultural experiences. The Egyptian integration of food into religious ceremonies, social celebrations, and diplomatic activities created models for using food as a medium for cultural expression and social communication that remain relevant in contemporary societies. Modern holiday foods, celebration treats, and ceremonial dishes often serve similar functions to those pioneered by ancient Egyptian food culture, connecting contemporary food practices to ancient precedents. Archaeological and historical research into ancient Egyptian food culture has provided valuable insights into the development of human food systems and has helped modern researchers understand the long-term trends and patterns that shape food production, distribution, and consumption. The sophisticated organization of Egyptian food industries, the integration of international trade into local food systems, and the development of processed foods for diverse markets provide historical models that help contemporary food scientists and policymakers understand both the potential and the challenges of complex food systems. The lessons learned from studying ancient Egyptian food culture continue to inform discussions about sustainable agriculture, food security, and cultural preservation in modern contexts. As we reach the end of our journey through the fascinating world of ancient Egyptian junk food and culinary culture, we can see that the human desire for delicious, convenient, and socially meaningful food experiences spans thousands of years and connects us directly to our ancient predecessors. The honey-soaked pastries that delighted Egyptian nobles, the portable bread snacks that sustained traveling merchants, the fermented beverages that fueled festive celebrations, and the preserved treats that marked special occasions all demonstrate that the fundamental human relationship with food goes far beyond basic nutrition to encompass pleasure, social connection, cultural expression, and personal identity. These ancient Egyptians, living along the fertile banks of the Nile thousands of years ago, faced many of the same choices and challenges that modern consumers face when navigating between health and indulgence, convenience and quality, tradition and innovation. The sophisticated food processing techniques, complex distribution systems, and nuanced understanding of consumer preferences that characterized ancient Egyptian cuisine reveal that our ancestors were far more advanced and thoughtful about food than many people realize. Their innovations in fermentation, preservation, flavoring, and presentation laid the groundwork for food technologies that we still use today, while their integration of food into social, religious, and cultural activities established patterns that continue to shape how we use food to create meaning and connection in our lives. The next time you reach for a sweet treat, enjoy a convenient snack, or share special food with friends and family, remember that you're participating in traditions that stretch back to the very dawn of civilization. connecting you across thousands of years to the bakers, brewers, and food lovers of ancient Egypt who first discovered that food could be so much more than mere sustenance. The evidence we've explored tonight demonstrates that the ancient Egyptians were true pioneers in food innovation, creating the world's first junk food, developing sophisticated processing techniques, establishing international food trade networks, and integrating processed foods into complex social and cultural systems that enhanced both individual pleasure and community cohesion. Their achievements in food technology and culinary culture represent one of humanity's great accomplishments, proving that the desire to transform basic ingredients into extraordinary experiences is one of our most enduring and universal characteristics. From the honey cakes of Egyptian nobles to the convenient snacks of modern consumers, the thread of human food innovation continues unbroken, connecting us to our past while inspiring us to create new and better ways to nourish both body and soul. Thanks for watching this video. Good night.